The UEMS Mercy floated quietly through the darkness of space. Its white hull showed bright red crosses on all sides. These crosses were an ancient symbol that meant the same thing to all intelligent beings. This ship helps the sick and injured. It does not fight. It heals. Captain Laura Bennett stood on the bridge looking at the screens that showed their destination. The blue-green planet Proxima 2 grew larger as they approached. She rubbed her tired eyes and checked the ship's systems one more time. "Status report," she said. Officer Rick Daniels nodded. "All systems normal, Captain. Medical supplies secure. Life support at full capacity. We'll reach orbit in about 6 hours." Laura nodded. The Mercy carried doctors from 17 Earth nations, medicine for a terrible disease, and hope for thousands of sick people. Both human settlers and the native Proximans were dying from a plague that had spread across the main continent. After 3 years of fighting over mining rights, both sides had finally agreed to stop shooting long enough to save lives. Dr. William Carter walked onto the bridge. As chief medical officer, he had spent months planning this mission. He had talked with Proximan tribal leaders and human colony officials to arrange safe passage for the medical ship. "The quarantine facilities are ready," William said. "Our teams can begin work as soon as we land." Laura smiled. "Good work, Doctor. This mission could finally bring peace to this system." "I hope so," William said. "The Proximans are suspicious of our technology, but they're desperate for help. Their medicine can't fight this plague." Communications Officer Samantha Rivera suddenly sat up straight at her station. "Captain, I'm picking up 3 ships approaching fast. They're not answering our calls." Laura frowned. "Put it on the main screen." The screen showed 3 dark ships moving toward them. Their design was unmistakable, the sharp angles and red markings of Krell vessels. The Krell were known throughout this part of space as troublemakers who sold weapons to both sides of any conflict. "This is Captain Laura Bennett of the United Earth Medical Ship Mercy," Laura said clearly into the communication system. "We are an unarmed medical vessel protected under Article 47 of the Galactic Concordat. Our mission is peaceful. Please respond." Silence answered her. The 3 ships kept coming. "They're charging weapons," Rick said, his voice tight with worry. Laura's eyes widened. "That's impossible. We're clearly marked as a hospital ship. Try all frequencies. Tell them." The first blast hit before she could finish. The Mercy shook violently. Warning alarms screamed throughout the ship. Red emergency lights flashed on. "Direct hit to our port side," Rick shouted over the noise. "Hull breach in sections 5 through 8. Sealing emergency doors." Laura grabbed the communications again. "This is the UEMS Mercy. We are an unarmed medical vessel. Cease fire immediately. We have over 400 medical personnel and crew aboard." The only answer was another blast that hit even harder than the first. The bridge lights flickered. Smoke began to fill the air. "They hit life support," Samantha cried out. "We're losing oxygen in the lower decks." William grabbed a nearby railing as the ship shuddered again. "They're deliberately targeting critical systems. This isn't a mistake." The third blast struck with devastating force. The explosion threw several bridge crew to the floor. When William got back to his feet, half the monitoring screens were dark. "They hit the main medical bay," Rick said, horror in his voice. "Direct hit. There were 50 doctors and nurses preparing supplies down there." Laura's face had gone pale, but her voice remained steady. "Emergency protocols. Get everyone to the escape pods. And activate the distress beacon. Full broadcast." The distress beacon would send everything happening on the Mercy back to Earth Command in real time. Every moment of this unprovoked attack would be recorded and transmitted. Another blast rocked the ship. Part of the ceiling collapsed, crushing Rick's station. William pulled a young technician from under fallen debris and pointed her toward the emergency exit. "We need to go, Captain," William said. Laura nodded grimly. "Bridge crew, evacuate, now." She pressed a final sequence into her command console. "I've set the system to broadcast everything. Earth will know what happened here." They fought their way through smoke-filled corridors. Twice they stopped to help injured crew members toward escape pods. The ship groaned around them, breaking. apart under the continued attack. At one intersection, Laura pushed William toward an escape corridor. "Get to pod section C, I need to check on the patients in quarantine." "Laura, there's no time. That's an order, doctor. Those patients can't evacuate themselves." Before he could argue, another explosion separated them. William found himself thrown backward as part of the ship tore open. Emergency barriers slammed down, cutting off his view of the captain. William led a group of survivors to the escape pod section. They crammed in as many people as possible. As their pod launched, William caught a last glimpse of the Mercy through a viewport. The once proud medical ship was breaking into pieces, its white hull blackened and torn. The red crosses that should have protected it were still visible among the destruction. In the escape pod, William found the ship's data recorder. Even if they didn't survive, this evidence would. He secured it carefully as their small pod tumbled away from the dying ship. On Earth, in the United Nations Space Command headquarters in Geneva, Admiral Grace Harrison watched the incoming distress signal with cold fury. Around her, the command center had fallen silent as the screen showed the deliberate destruction of an unarmed hospital ship. "Get me the Secretary General," she ordered, her voice like ice. "And begin mobilization protocols. All of them." A young officer stared at her. "All of them, Admiral? That would mean—" "I know exactly what it means," Grace cut him off. "They attacked a hospital ship. That crosses a line no species has ever dared cross before." She looked back at the screen, where the broken pieces of the Mercy drifted against the stars. "And they're going to learn what happens when you do." News of the attack on the UEMS Mercy spread across Earth like wildfire. Within hours, everyone had seen the footage of the hospital ship breaking apart under Krell fire. The faces of the 347 dead medical workers and crew members appeared on screens, worldwide. People on every continent and colony held vigils, their faces lit by candles in the darkness. In Washington, D.C., President Eleanor Reyes stood before a joint session of Congress. Her normally calm face showed controlled anger as she spoke. "For centuries, even in our worst wars, humans and other species have respected certain rules. We do not target the helpless. We do not attack those who come to heal. The destruction of our unarmed hospital ship breaks the most basic rule that binds all thinking beings together. Earth's response will be strong, direct, and unified." The vote that followed was unanimous. For the first time in 30 years, Earth authorized full military mobilization. Dr. William Carter woke up in a military hospital on the moon. His body hurt everywhere. The escape pod had been picked up by a passing trade ship, which brought the survivors to the nearest Earth base. Of the 411 people who had been aboard the Mercy, only 28 had survived. A nurse checked his vital signs. "You're doing better today, Doctor. Admiral Harrison wants to speak with you when you're ready." William nodded weakly. His memories of the attack remained vivid. He could still see Captain Bennett's face as she ordered him to the escape pods while she went to help the quarantined patients. None of the patients had survived. Neither had she. "I'm ready now," he said. Admiral Grace Harrison entered his room a few minutes later. She was tall, with gray-streaked hair pulled back tightly. Her uniform was impeccable, but her eyes looked tired. "Dr. Carter," she said, sitting beside his bed, "I'm glad you survived. What you and the other Mercy crew went through was unforgivable." William looked away. "We were there to help everyone, including the Krell. Captain Bennett had coordinated with Krell representatives about treating their sick too. It makes no sense." "We've identified the 3 ships that attacked you," Harrison said. 2 have returned to Krell territory. The 3rd is still near Proxima, probably hunting for escape. "Pods." William's hands tightened on his blanket. "What happens now?" "Justice," Harrison replied simply. "Earth hasn't mobilized like this since the first contact wars. Every shipyard from here to Mars is working around the clock. We're bringing vessels out of retirement. Private ships are being converted for military use." She paused, studying William's face. "We're assigning each Mercy survivor to a different ship in the response fleet. I want you on the flagship with me." "I'm a doctor, not a soldier," William protested. "This isn't about making you fight, Doctor. It's about having witnesses." "When We find those responsible. I want someone who lived through the attack to see justice delivered. Across the solar system, humanity prepared for war with remarkable speed. At the Norfolk Space Naval Base, Commander Keith Douglas supervised the transformation of the civilian cruise ship Pacific Voyager into the military carrier USS Retribution. "How are those weapon systems coming along?" he asked Chief Engineer Maria Vasquez. Maria wiped sweat from her forehead. "We've installed the plasma cannons, but this hull wasn't built for military use. We've had to reinforce everything." "Will she hold together in combat?" "She'll hold," Maria said confidently. "Everyone working on this ship lost someone on the Mercy. My sister was a nurse there. We won't let this ship fail." Keith nodded. The attack had touched everyone. His husband had lost his best friend, a doctor who had volunteered for the Mercy mission. The Krell had no idea what they had awakened. Earth's alien allies watched with surprise as humans united with unexpected efficiency. The Aldebaran Federation offered technical help. The Rigelian Compact shared intelligence about Krell movements. Even species that had troubled relationships with humans sent messages of support. The attack on healers had broken something fundamental. 3 weeks after the attack, Earth launched its response. It wasn't a single retaliatory strike, but a coordinated fleet action involving over 200 vessels. Admiral Harrison had organized them into 7 battle groups, each named after a medical specialty represented on the Mercy: trauma, surgery, pediatrics, infectious disease, oncology, cardiology, and neurology. William, still recovering from his injuries, stood on the bridge of the flagship UES Hippocrates as it departed Earth orbit. The ship had been built in record time, its white hull intentionally reminiscent of the Mercy but bristling with weapons the hospital ship had never carried. "You should see this, Doctor," Harrison said, gesturing to a viewport. William looked out and caught his breath. Hundreds of ships moved in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming in the sunlight. Between them flew thousands of smaller craft, forming a protective screen around the larger vessels. Many bore the names of those lost on the Mercy. "I've never seen so many ships," William said quietly. "Neither has anyone else," Harrison replied. "This is the largest fleet Earth has ever assembled." As the fleet approached the edge of Krell space, Harrison sent a message directly to the Krell leadership on their homeworld. She broadcasted on all frequencies, making sure everyone in that sector of space would hear it. "This is Admiral Grace Harrison of the United Earth Navy. 3 of your vessels attacked and destroyed an unarmed Earth medical ship in neutral space. 347 medical personnel and crew members died. We have sent proof of this war crime to all members of the Galactic Concordat. Earth demands the immediate surrender of the ships and crews responsible, as well as the Krell officials who ordered this attack." Hours passed before a response came. The image of Supreme Commander Vexkar of the Krell hegemony appeared on the main screen. His scaled face showed no emotion as he spoke. "The Krell hegemony knows nothing about an attack on your ship. If your medical vessel was destroyed, it was probably due to your own mistakes or perhaps Proximan rebels. Remove your fleet from our border immediately, or we will consider it an act of war." Harrison had expected this response. The Krell had bullied smaller species for centuries because no one had ever stood up to them. "Commander Vexkar, let me be clear. We have identified the 3 vessels responsible: the cruisers Relentless Hunter, Voidclaw, and Silent Strike. We have tracked their energy signatures and have visual proof of their involvement. Earth does not make empty threats. You have 24 hours to surrender those responsible, or we will come and get them ourselves." As Harrison ended the transmission, William noticed the expressions of the bridge crew. No one showed fear. Instead, he saw the same cold determination he felt himself. "Do you think they'll surrender the ships?" William asked quietly. Harrison shook her head. "No. The Krell only respect power. They've never faced serious consequences before." "Then what happens when the deadline passes?" Harrison's eyes were like steel as she looked at the star field before them. "Then we show them exactly what happens when someone attacks a hospital ship from Earth." The 24-hour deadline passed. The Krell gave no response to Earth's demands. On the bridge of the UES Hippocrates, Admiral Harrison gathered her commanders. Dr. William Carter stood to one side, watching the grim-faced officers. "The Krell believe we're bluffing," Harrison said. "They think humans lack the will to follow through on our threats. Today, we prove them wrong." She turned to a screen showing the Krell border outpost that had harbored one of the attacking ships. "Captain Kim, your surgery battle group will strike first. Disable their weapons and shields, then extract the silent strike from its dock. No Krell casualties if possible." Captain Jason Kim nodded. "Understood, Admiral. Surgical precision." "We'll broadcast everything on all frequencies," Harrison continued. "I want the entire sector to see what happens next." As the meeting ended, Commander Nicole Winters approached William. She led the fleet's special operations teams. Her dark eyes studied him carefully. "How are you holding up, Doctor?" she asked. "I keep seeing the Mercy breaking apart," William admitted. "I keep hearing the alarms." Nicole nodded. "I've studied the Krell for years. They respect nothing but strength. Their whole society is built on the idea that the powerful can do whatever they want. So we're becoming just like them?" William asked. "Stronger bullies?" "No," Nicole said firmly. "We're going to be something they've never seen before. Predators with principles. They need to learn that attacking healers brings warriors. But when we win, we'll still follow the rules of war they chose to ignore." William watched as the surgery battle group broke formation and moved toward the Krell outpost. 5 sleek ships, led by Captain Kim's vessel, accelerated smoothly to attack speed. On the main screen, the outpost appeared, a sprawling structure of metal and stone anchored to a small moon. Several Krell ships floated nearby, including the Silent Strike, one of the vessels that had attacked the Mercy. "All ships, weapons hot," Kim ordered. "Target their defense systems only. Begin broadcast." What followed was a demonstration of precision that stunned even the human observers. The Earth ships struck with perfect coordination, neutralizing the outpost's weapons and shields in under 2 minutes. Not a single living area was hit. No fires burned. No air vented into space. Before the Ibao, Krell could launch a proper response, Earth Marines boarded the outpost. They moved with practiced efficiency, disabling rather than killing the Krell defenders. Within 10 minutes, they reached the docking bay where the Silent Strike waited. "This is Strike Team Alpha," came the report. "We have secured the Silent Strike. Engines starting now." Minutes later, the ship that had helped destroy the Mercy emerged from the outpost, now under human control. The surgery battle group formed a protective screen around it and departed, all before the main Krell fleet could arrive. On the Hippocrates, William watched the operation with a mixture of satisfaction and disbelief. That was incredible. "The message is clear," Harrison said. "We can strike anywhere with overwhelming force, yet we choose restraint. The next target won't receive such gentle treatment." The Krell response came swiftly. Their entire border fleet mobilized, moving toward a region known as Proxima's Edge, a sprawling nebula that marked the boundary between Krell space and the Proxima system. "They're doing exactly what we predicted," Harrison noted. "They want to engage us in open battle where their superior numbers should give them the advantage." "Should?" William asked. Harrison's smile was cold. "The Krell only know how to fight one way: direct confrontation with overwhelming force. We've prepared for something different." She turned to her tactical officer. "Begin Phase 2. Deploy the drones into the nebula." For the next 6 hours, small unmanned craft entered the nebula, seemingly random in their movements. The Krell paid them little attention, focusing on the approaching human fleet. "They think we're being cautious, sending drones to scout ahead," Commander Winters explained to William. "They don't realize we're reshaping the battlefield." When the Krell fleet entered the nebula to intercept the human forces, Harrison split her fleet. The central ships appeared to fall back as if retreating. The Krell ships surged forward, sensing weakness. "Now," Harrison ordered. Suddenly, the drones scattered throughout the nebula activated. They emitted energy pulses that reacted with the nebula's gases, creating electromagnetic storms that disrupted Krell sensors and communications. The Krell ships found themselves flying blind, unable to coordinate their attacks. Meanwhile, the cardiology and neurology battle groups, which had circled around the edges of the nebula, struck at the Krell command ships from behind. The human vessels moved with unnatural coordination, seeming to anticipate Krell maneuvers before they happened. "How are we doing this?" William asked, watching the tactical display in amazement. "Their fleet is twice our size." "We've been studying them for years," Harrison replied, her eyes never leaving the display. After they took over the Tau Ceti colonies, Earth intelligence made understanding Krell tactics a priority. "We know how they think, how they fight." Battle unfolded unlike any conflict William had ever seen. Human ships targeted Krell vessels with disabling rather than destroying shots where possible. Special Forces teams boarded and captured key Krell warships, including the Relentless Hunter, another of the ships that had attacked the Mercy. When the Void Claw, the last of the three attackers, tried to escape, it faced an unexpected obstacle. 28 small unarmed ships formed a blockade in its path. William recognized the formation. Each ship was piloted by a survivor of the Mercy attack. "What are they doing?" he asked, alarmed. "Those ships have no weapons." "They don't need weapons," Harrison said. "Look." The small ships herded the Krell vessel, maneuvering it into the waiting guns of the Pediatrics battle group. The symbolism was clear. Even the most vulnerable of humanity stood united against such atrocities. As the battle turned decisively, in Earth's favor, Supreme Commander Vexkar opened a channel from the Krell flagship. "You have made your point, Admiral," the Krell leader said, his voice strained. "The hegemony is prepared to offer payment for the unfortunate incident with your medical vessel." Harrison's response was ice cold. "This is not a negotiation, Commander. Complete surrender of your forces is the only acceptable outcome. The crew of the Mercy were there to save Krell lives as well as human and Proximan ones. The plague doesn't care what species it kills, and neither did our doctors. But you chose to attack healers, and now you face the consequences." For the first time in recorded history, a Krell fleet surrendered. William stood on the bridge as Captain Daniel Garcia of the Infectious Disease Group reported the final count. 83 Krell vessels captured, 29 destroyed when they refused to yield, and the remaining forces retreating back to Krell space. More importantly, Earth now held both remaining ships that had attacked the Mercy and evidence linking the orders to the highest levels of the Krell military command. "What happens now?" William asked Harrison. "Now we show the galaxy that humans don't just fight differently," she replied. "We win differently too." 2 months after the Battle of Proxima's Edge, representatives from 27 spacefaring species gathered at Unity Station. The massive space station orbited Barnard's Star, a neutral location respected by all major powers. The Galactic Concordat members had called a special meeting to address not only the attack on the UEMS Mercy, but what Earth's response meant for the future. Dr. William Carter stood before the assembled delegates. His wounds had healed, but the memories remained sharp. Behind him sat Admiral Harrison and the other survivors of the Mercy. Before him, representatives from across the galaxy watched with solemn faces. "I served as Chief Medical Officer aboard the UM's Mercy," William began. "Our mission was simple, to help the sick on Proxima II, regardless of species. We carried medicines, doctors, and hope. We carried no weapons. We threatened no one." He described the attack in plain terms. He did not need to exaggerate. The truth was terrible enough. The Krell vessels targeted our medical base first, then our life support systems. They knew what they were hitting. This was not a mistake. As William spoke, evidence collected from the captured Krell ships appeared on screens around the chamber. Ship logs, communication records. Most damning of all, orders signed by 3 members of the Krell High Command explicitly directing the attack on the hospital ship to demonstrate resolve to the Proximans. When William finished, the Krell representative rose to speak. Unlike Supreme Commander Vexkar, who now awaited trial, this was a civilian leader, Elder Kexela of the Krell Diplomatic Corps. "The hegemony acknowledges the crimes committed by certain military leaders," she said. Her voice lacked the usual Krell arrogance. These actions do not represent the values of all Krell. We accept responsibility and will submit to the judgment of the Concordat. The judgment, when it came, was severe but fair. The Krell military hierarchy would be dismantled. Substantial payments would go to both Earth and Proxima. The Krell would withdraw from territories they had bullied their way into over the past 50 years. More significantly, a new provision was added to the Galactic Concordat, the Mercy Protocol. It established stronger protections for medical vessels and personnel, along with immediate collective response to any violation. The attack on one medical ship would now be considered an attack on all peaceful species. William watched from a viewing gallery as the delegate signed the new protocol. Admiral Harrison stood beside him. "Did you ever imagine this outcome when we set out for revenge?" William asked. Harrison shook her head. "This was never about revenge, Doctor. It was about justice and ensuring this never happens again." After the signing, William wandered the peaceful gardens of Unity Station. He found a quiet spot overlooking the stars and sat down, suddenly tired. "May I join you?" a voice asked. William looked up to see Samantha Rivera, one of the few bridge officers who had survived the attack. Now a communications director for the newly established Interstellar Medical Corps, she sat beside him without waiting for an answer. "I keep thinking about Captain Bennett," Samantha said quietly. "She went back for the quarantined patients instead of saving herself." William nodded. "Laura always put others first. It's why we all followed her. The new medical ship is being named after her. The UEMS Bennett launches next month. They want you as chief medical officer." William looked surprised. "I hadn't heard. Admiral, Harrison recommended you personally. She's taking over the Interstellar Medical Corps." "Harrison's leaving military service?" William asked, shocked. Samantha smiled. "She says there's more than one way to build peace. The Medical Corps will provide help throughout the galaxy." The next day, Earth's response fleet began a transformation. Many ships were recommissioned as hospital vessels and research craft. Others would remain military but serve as protectors for medical missions in dangerous regions. William found Harrison in a meeting room, reviewing plans for the new UEMS Bennett. "I heard you're stealing my best doctor for your flagship," Harrison said when she saw him. "If he agrees," William replied. "Why me? Surely there are better candidates." "Because you understand what we learned from all this." Harrison gestured toward a window showing the Earth fleet. "The Krell made a fundamental mistake. They saw our dedication to healing as weakness, not understanding that the same determination drives both our compassion and our resolve." She turned to face him directly. "Humanity didn't go to war because we love fighting. We went because we refused to let compassion be seen as weakness." William considered her words. "And now we go back to healing. With better protection," Harrison added. "The galaxy has changed. Every species now understands that attacking a hospital ship brings consequences." 1 week later, William returned to Earth for the memorial service. On a quiet hillside overlooking the Pacific Ocean, a monument had been created from recovered pieces of the Mercy. The names of all 347 lost crew members spiraled around a central column of twisted metal that once formed part of the Mercy's hull. William placed his hand on the cool metal, finding Laura Bennett's name among the others. Families of the lost stood nearby, many looking at William and the other survivors with complicated emotions. An older woman approached him. "You served with my daughter, Amy Patel?" William nodded, remembering the young nurse who had worked tirelessly in the quarantine section. "Yes, ma'am. She was extraordinarily brave." "They say you're taking a new ship to Proxima?" "Yes. The plague is still spreading. We need to finish what the Mercy started." The woman nodded slowly. "Good. That's what Amy would have wanted." As William prepared to board a shuttle back to lunar orbit where the Bennett was under construction, he received a surprising message. The Krell Elder Kexla requested to speak with him. In a secure conference room, the Krell representative waited. She seemed diminished somehow, her usually imposing scaled form hunched slightly. "Dr. Carter," she said. I wish to speak with you directly as one healer to another. You're a doctor? William asked, surprised. Before I joined the diplomatic corps, yes, which is why the attack on your vessel horrified many of us. She paused. The first mission of your new ship is it true you're bringing medical aid to a Krell colony? William nodded. The same plague affecting Proxima has reached your outer colonies. We have treatments that can help. After what we did to your people, you would still help ours? That's what doctors do, William said simply. The plague doesn't care what species it infects. Neither do we. Kexela stared at him for a long moment. I begin to understand why your kind frightens the old military leaders so much. Your strength isn't in your weapons. No, William agreed. It never was. 2 days later, the newly completed UEMS Bennett departed Earth. As the ship passed through the solar system, it received a guard of honor. Vessels from a dozen different species flew alongside, all displaying the universal symbol for medical services. William stood on the bridge, watching the stars grow brighter as they accelerated toward their first mission. The Bennett carried medicines, doctors, and hope, just as the Mercy had. But this time, the galaxy watched with new understanding. The Krell had attacked a hospital ship. Earth had responded with fury, yes, but also with justice and, in the end, a return to the very compassion that had been targeted, and the galaxy would never be the same. 1 year after the attack on the UEMS Mercy, Dr. William Carter walked through the main medical bay of the UEMS Bennett. The ship hummed with activity as doctors and nurses prepared for their next mission. In 12 months, the Bennett had visited 17 worlds, helping victims of disease, natural disasters, and war. William stopped to check the readings on a Krell child's bed. The young patient had been infected with a new strain of the Proxima plague, but was recovering well. The boy's eye scales were regaining their healthy green color. You're doing much better today, William said with a smile. The child's mother, who hadn't left her son's side in 3 days, looked up at William. My family did not believe humans would really help us after what happened. A doctor's job is to heal everyone, William replied. No exceptions. This was the Bennett's third visit to Krell territory. Each time they were greeted with less suspicion and more gratitude. News of their work had spread throughout Krell space. William's communicator buzzed. Dr. Carter, Admiral Harrison is calling. From Earth. She says it's important. In his office, William activated the video screen. Grace Harrison appeared, looking formal in her Interstellar Medical Corps uniform. Behind her, William could see the gardens of the IMC headquarters in Geneva. William, how's your patient? She asked. Responding well to treatment. The new vaccine is working better than we hoped. Harrison nodded, pleased. Good. I'm calling, because you've been invited to attend a special ceremony on Krellasia. William blinked in surprise. The Krell homeworld? Why? The new Krell government is opening their first dedicated medical academy. They want to name it after Captain Laura Bennett. William sat down speechless for a moment. Laura would have found that funny. She always said the Krell needed more doctors and fewer warships. They're listening now, Harrison said. The academy will train doctors of all species, with a focus on emergency medicine and cross-species care. After ending the call, William sat quietly, thinking about how much had changed. The Krell, once known only for their aggression, were transforming their society. The attack on the Mercy had set in motion events no one could have predicted. 1 month later, William stood on the surface of Krellasia, watching as Krell and human officials cut a ribbon across the entrance of the Bennett Medical Academy. The A building blended Krell and human architectural styles, with wide, sweeping arches and tall windows that let in the orange light of the Krell sun. Elder Kexela, now head of the new Krell government, addressed the crowd. This academy represents our commitment to a new path. For too long, the Krell hegemony valued only strength in battle. We saw healing as weakness. We were wrong. She turned to where William stood with the other Mercy survivors. These humans showed us true strength. When we attacked their healers, they responded with righteous fury. But when they won, they returned to healing, even helping those who had harmed them. That is strength we must learn. After the ceremony, William toured the academy with Samantha Rivera, who now served as the human liaison to the Krell government. The halls were filled with medical equipment, simulation rooms, and laboratories where students of different species already worked together. It's strange to think this all started with an attack, Samantha said quietly. Not with the attack, William corrected her. It started with the Mercy's mission. The attack was just one terrible moment in a larger story. That evening, William attended a dinner with students from the first class of the academy. He found himself seated next to a young Krell female who introduced herself as Vextra. "You seem familiar," William said, trying to place where he might have seen her before. "My father was Supreme Commander Vexakar," she said simply. William stiffened. Vexakar had been the Krell military leader who denied responsibility for the attack on the Mercy. He now served a life sentence for war crimes. "I apologize if my presence disturbs you," Vextra said, noticing his reaction. "I can move to another seat." "No," William said after a moment. "Please stay. I want you to know that I visited my father in prison last week," she continued. "I told him I was entering the medical academy. He did not approve." "And yet you're here anyway," William observed. "The day the Mercy was attacked, I was working in a field hospital on a Krell colony. I saw what the plague did to my people. I knew humans were coming to help, bringing medicines we didn't have." Her eyes met William's directly. "When I learned what my father had ordered, I could not understand it. Why attack those coming to heal?" "What did he say?" "He said healers make people soft, that the strong should survive without help." She looked down at her plate. "I disagree. I believe helping others makes us all stronger." William felt a weight he hadn't realized he was carrying begin to lift. "Your father's actions caused great harm, but perhaps some good can come from it, after all." The next morning, William walked with Admiral Harrison through a memorial garden planted beside the academy. Plants from Earth, Krellassia, and other worlds grew together in carefully tended beds. In the center stood a simple stone marker with the names of those lost on the Mercy. "Do you think Laura would approve of all this?" William asked, touching the cool stone. "She'd say it's about time," Harrison replied with a small smile. "She always believed the Krell could change. She just didn't live to see it." A group of academy students walked past, a mix of humans, Krell, and 3 other species. They talked animatedly about medical procedures and treatment protocols, their different voices blending together. "That's the real victory," Harrison said, watching them. "Not defeating the Krell in battle, but this. Different species learning to heal together." As the Bennett prepared to depart Krellassia the next day, William received an unexpected visitor. Elder Kexela came aboard, carrying a small metal box. "This was recovered from the wreckage of the Mercy," she said, handing it to William. "We thought it should be returned to Earth." Inside the box was Captain Laura Bennett's personal log and a tattered medical patch from her uniform. William ran, his fingers over the embroidered caduceus symbol, the ancient sign of healing. "We will keep this safe," William promised, "and continue the work she started." As the Bennett lifted off from Krellassia, William watched the Bennett Medical Academy grow smaller through the viewport. In the year since the attack, the galaxy had changed in ways no one could have imagined. A terrible act of violence had led, eventually, to greater understanding and cooperation. The Krell had attacked a hospital ship. Earth had responded with justified fury. But in the end, it was not weapons that had truly changed the Krell. It was the power of compassion, the strength found in healing rather than harming. And that, William thought as the stars welcomed them back, was the most powerful force of all.